This is a Shock podcast.
Shock. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the second episode of The Art of Beauty. I'm your host, Yasmin, and here at The Art of Beauty, we're talking about all things beauty. The industry, skin positivity, confidence, the hottest new releases, and more. I'm super excited to delve deeper into the extensive world that is beauty with you in each episode. So, for starters, I'd like to say, good to see you again, and if you're new here, welcome. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion in the industry, how the industry can be more inclusive, and why it's so important anyway. As a disclaimer, I'd also like to say that I am in no way a figure of authority when it comes to this topic. Think of it as a little discussion between me and you. Through this, I'm sort of hoping that I get to shed some light on the industry a bit more and share with you guys a thing or two about what I've learned after doing some research. I can't say that I miss doing research per se, kind of takes me back to my university days, but as a lover of all things beauty, I think it's important to stay woke about the nasties within something that I love and appreciate so much. Feel free to agree or disagree. I welcome all sorts of conversations, so also, before we get started, I hope you guys are doing well wherever you're listening to this. I think it's important to check in on each other, and although I'm saying this through a podcast episode, and I don't know you and you don't know me, I sincerely hope that you're in a good place, and if you aren't, I'm sending good vibes your way. I wasn't feeling my best today, so when I woke up, I decided to whack on some makeup even though I'm at work today and I've got a face mask on, but whatever floats your boat, right? Quick side note before we hop into what we're talking about today, I'm using the Fenty Ease Drop foundation, and if you haven't tried it yet, although I feel like everyone has, then I highly recommend that you do. I personally don't believe in having bottles upon bottles of foundation and concealers. I've found the ones that work for me and my skin type, and I stick to them. The Ease Drop is super lightweight and has buildable coverage, although if you're looking for something a bit more heavy duty, then maybe this isn't for you. But if I'm wearing it to work and I'm not taking my mask off, then I think it's great. It lets my skin breathe and all that good stuff. Honestly, I haven't been that interested in looking for different ones, but speaking of foundations and concealers, on to the topic at hand. In recent years, the lack of diversity in the beauty industry has become a much talked about topic. For example, although recent years have seen a rise in color diversity in the beauty industry, most brands still offer only lighter shades of makeup and don't take darker skin tones into account. I, for one, have many friends who, for a long time, had a lot of trouble finding good shade matches for themselves and often resorted to using foundations that were just obviously not their match, or they ended up mixing a ton of foundations together to try and find their perfect match. And it was all because they couldn't find something that suited them. It doesn't exactly stop there. Diversity within the beauty industry is anything from having male personal care and beauty routines, beauty across generations, having tailored products for people of all abilities, and that's honestly just the tip of the iceberg. Today, the beauty industry is definitely taking note. On the skincare front, you have the cap-free packaging from Drunk Elephant. You can just twist the top off with one hand and a hidden pump emerges, allowing you to apply the product directly onto your skin. Then you also have something like Noto Botanics, an independently owned brand helmed by Gloria Noto, which has positioned itself as a brand that takes gender labels to the next level. They aim to deliver multi-purpose products that are essentially gender fluid. And then on the makeup front, you have Kohl's Creative's Flex collection that consists of freestanding brushes with non-rolling, easy grip handles and fully bendable heads to allow users who struggle with motor disabilities and hand stability to apply makeup precisely and comfortably. The brushes are designed to make makeup accessible for people with conditions such as MS and Parkinson's. The brushes also have support for identification and an audio guide for people with visual impairments. On our home front, the range of halal beauty available in Malaysia is so impressive, with brands like Solek making wudu-friendly nail polishes available to all. Now, although we won't be able to cover and do deep dives on every aspect of inclusive beauty, I thought we could focus on shade ranges in this episode, which in itself is a massive topic. As you all know, Rihanna launched her makeup brand Fenty Beauty in 2017, which impressed with its wide selection of foundation tones. Fenty Beauty was the first cosmetics brand that I personally saw to represent diversity and inclusion to this extent. It was a part of their brand DNA. A beauty brand with 40 different makeup colors in its range at launch? It was unprecedented at the time. But now, that's the standard. Brands are criticized for horrible shade ranges, like remember Tarte when they came out with their Shape Tape matte and hydrating foundations in just 15 shades? Or even worse, you have IT Cosmetics launching 12 shades in their Bye Bye foundation collection at launch. I mean, guys, come on, really? And it always tended to be the case that there would be like 10 light shades and maybe 2 or 3 darker shades, which is insane considering their consumer base and the fact that these brands were global. I mean, like, who thought that that would have been a good idea? On a slight segue, over here in Asia, I think we also have an almost separate issue, though, in comparison to the United States, the West. We have skin whitening, or rather skin bleaching, however you want to call it, and it's an issue that still persists today. The skin whitening industry is very much still booming around here, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. So, anyone here who isn't too familiar with this, without getting too political, this issue is deeply rooted in our colonial history. Having light skin implied that one was a woman of high class, education, and leisure. A woman's light skin meant she didn't have to work outdoors to make a living. Since the upper class was thought to have lighter skin, people from lower classes wanted to imitate their appearance, as they couldn't simply just be wealthy and influential, but they could appear like it. So, because of this, fair skin is linked to upward social mobility, high social status, wealth, and influence. History class aside, as explained by Claire Chang, MD, a board-certified dermatologist at Union Square Laser Dermatology in New York City, skin bleaching is the process by which substances are used to reduce melanin concentration in the skin to lighten it. And let's get this straight as well. This is not just something that's limited to women. Some men do skin bleaching as well. I think it's been hard, especially recently, to get away from the perception of lighter skin being more beautiful, especially when you're immersed in a society where fair skin is a characteristic that has long defined beauty. Let's look at South Korea, for example. And if you know anything about the K-pop industry or K-dramas, you would know how vitriolic people are capable of being towards actors, actresses, and K-pop idols who have a more tanned skin tone. Fair skin is favored in the industry and increases a celebrity's brand reputation. You have fan sites editing their idol's skin to be lighter in photos, propagating the idea that having fairer skin is more ideal. Also, I'm not a hater, by the way. Let me make that super clear. I love K-pop and I watch a ton of K-dramas, but I can't ignore stuff like this that is so blatant and problematic and so in your face. Back to the facts. Half of the population in Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines use some kind of skin lightening treatment. Today, this can be achieved with soaps, over-the-counter and prescription creams, pills, injections, and an assortment of cosmetic procedures. While new technologies have brought lasers, complex acids, and procedures as safe and effective options for bleaching purposes, many products still contain adulterated and/or toxic products, such as mercury and lead. Mercury-containing skin lightening products are hazardous to health, and as a result have been banned in many countries. By the way, it's the mercury salts that inhibit the formation of melanin, resulting in a lighter skin tone. That's why it's in some products. There are reports of such products still being available to consumers, and they are advertised on none other than the internet, and very much affordable and easily accessible. Skin bleaching treatments are largely unregulated, and there are still a lot of skin whitening products and treatments out on the market with little to no medical evidence. By the way, this is in no way criticizing the men and women who do skin bleaching, but rather the systems or the institutions that are currently in place to perpetuate this idea of equating fairer skin to being more beautiful, which is so far from the truth. Without getting too political yet again, I think we need to look inwards towards our own biases and question why there are still institutions that encourage it and how, as a society, can we overcome these biases. I understand that there may be a demand for it, but while we question why people are doing it, the real question should be, why are people making these products at all? There's a lot of questions that come to mind for me here as well, going back to foundation ranges. When you have a society that predominantly wants to have lighter skin tones and perceives that as being the definition of beauty, without putting too much of a blanket statement on it, Some brands may be wondering why there's even a point of creating such a wide range of foundations. And not to justify it, but seeing it from a brand's perspective, I guess if they see that there's a lower demand for certain shades, then they're probably wondering why pump money into producing it. I personally can't speak for people whose skin tones I don't represent, but I think it's fairly obvious that there are still gaps to be filled, demands to be met, and conversations to be had, particularly here in Asia, where the issue is very much deeply rooted into our society. The demand for diversity and inclusivity where makeup is concerned is clearly felt, and beauty brands are seeing the need and feeling the pressure to change things for good. So, how can the beauty industry be more inclusive? From a marketing standpoint, marketing for beauty brands has become so much more about values, what the beauty brands stand for, and proof of it, of course, than the product itself. Now it's about having inclusivity that can have a positive impact on engagement and brand performance, because what we as consumers want to see is representation of ourselves no matter which brand we turn to, which is key now more so than ever. Secondly, it goes without saying that we want to see authenticity and transparency. We want to look for brands that deliver on their promised values and play a meaningful role in society. After all, actions speak louder than words, right? Brands that deliver on their values and contribute to society in an organic, authentic way, whether it's supporting charities that represent their values and causes that they support, creating products that cater towards all, creating marketing campaigns that represent all genders, all skin tones. I mean, I could keep going. Seeing at the end of the day is believing. Thirdly, using a top-down, bottom-up approach. There are obviously regular human beings behind each beauty brand, and in this day and age, beauty brands have social media as a platform to contribute their voices and take a stand on the current socio-political issues. That's not to say that they need to comment on everything that happens all over the world. That's quite a lot to expect, right? But at the very least, to be aware of their consumer base and stand up for what they as a brand believe in and what their customers believe in as well. They should be listening to what their audience has to say and adjust accordingly. For example, you have Lady Gaga's House Laboratories, which bolsters self-acceptance, authenticity, and inclusivity. And its Born This Way Foundation donates $1 for every purchase to support the mental health of young people. And finally, leveraging the right voices to amplify their brand values and campaign messages. We want to see that the people that you work with, you meaning the brands, that you work with represent your values and us buyers too. At the end of the day, why is diversity so important in this day and age? Makeup brands have a massive consumer base, so ignoring a big portion of their demographic would be, frankly, just an extremely unwise business move. But more importantly, it would be rejecting the future of the industry itself and would perpetuate the false idea that certain aspects or certain qualities of a person isn't worthy of them having access to products that can make them feel confident in their own skin. Naturally, we want to look good and feel our best. Inclusive beauty opens the door for anyone wanting to come in. Beauty at the end of the day is a feeling. It's not just a look. Consumers are ultimately looking for understanding and personalized products that meet their individual needs, products that mirror their unique qualities. Seeing themselves represented in whether it's product branding, advertising, packaging, formulation, it means the world. In this episode, I've tried and touched on a little bit of everything, but there is such vastness with regards to achieving diversity within beauty that the conversation absolutely doesn't stop here. In fact, it begins here. And hopefully, it'll give you more things to ponder on. And that's it for today's episode, y'all. Hope you guys feel a bit more woke after this episode and that you've learned maybe another thing or two, and it inspires you to go out and do more research. So, catch you soon and sending love your way, as always. See ya!